Friends, welcome to the module A Survey on Different Methods and Techniques of Teaching. Teaching is a deliberate activity done in a professional manner to bring a positive change in the learner in order to teach well. Teachers are guided by certain principles of teaching and learning which have great implication for teaching. The role of the teacher is very essential in the effective implementation of the curriculum. Teachers challenge the three domains of cognitive, affective and the psychomotor domains of learners. The classroom is a dynamic environment, bringing together students from different backgrounds with various abilities and personalities. Being an effective teacher therefore requires the implementation of creative and innovative teaching strategies in order to meet students' individual needs. Teaching methods denotes the strategy by which a teacher delivers his or her subject matter to the learners based on some predetermined instructional objectives in order to promote learning in the students. For a teacher to effectively adopt any teaching methods, some factors must be considered. The effective implementation of any curriculum depends to a large extent on the availability of various methods of teaching. Thus, to teach is to impart knowledge, an attempt to help the learner have a change of attitude and acquire skills through a series of planned activities. Now, coming to the classification of teaching methods. Different teaching methods may elicit different types of changes in learning outcomes. There are different types of teaching methods which can be categorized into following broad types. These are teacher-centered methods, learner-centered methods, content-focused methods, and interactive or participative methods. Coming to the teacher-centered methods. In teacher-centered approach to teaching, teachers are the main authority figure. Here the teacher casts himself or herself in the role of being a master of the subject matter. The teacher is looked upon by the learners as an expert or an authority. Learners, on the other hand, are presumed to be passive and copious recipients of knowledge from the teacher. Students are viewed as empty vessels whose primary role is to passively receive information via lectures and direct instruction with an end goal of testing and assessment. It is the primary role of teachers to pass knowledge and information on to their students. In this model, teaching and assessment are viewed as two separate entities. Examples of such methods are expository or lecture methods, which requires little or no involvement of learners in the teaching process. It is also for this lack of involvement of the learners in what they are taught that such methods are called closed-ended. Then coming to the learner-centered methods. In the student-centered approach to teaching, while teachers are the authority figure in this model, teachers and students play an equally active role in the learning process. In learner-centered methods, the teachers, both a teacher and a learner, at the same line. In the words of Lawrence Stenhouse, the teacher plays a dual role as a learner as well, so that in his classroom extends rather than constrict his intellectual horizons. The teacher's primary role is to coach and facilitate student learning and overall comprehension of material. Student learning is measured through both formal and informal forms of assessment, including group projects, student portfolios, and class participation. Teaching and assessments are connected. Student learning is continuously measured during teacher instruction. Commonly used teaching methods may include class participation, demonstration, recitation, memorization, or combination of this. The teacher becomes a resource rather than an authority. Examples of learning-centered methods are discussion methods, discovery or inquiry-based approach, etc. Then coming to content-focused methods. In this category of methods, both the teacher and the learners have to fit into the content that is taught. Generally, this means the information and skills to be taught are regarded as sacrosanct or very important. A lot of emphasis is laid on the clarity and careful analysis of content. Both the teacher and the learners cannot alter or become critical of anything to do with the content. An example of a method which subordinates the interest of the teacher and learners to the content is the programmed learning approach. Then coming to the interactive or participative methods. This fourth category borrows a bit from the three other methods without necessarily laying emphasis unduly on the learner, content, or teacher. These methods are driven by the situational analysis of what is the most appropriate thing for us to learn, do now given situation of learners and the teacher. They require a participatory understanding of varied domains and factors. Teaching methods are many and varied and could be used in different ways, considering among others the age of the learners, body configuration or physique of learners. In other broad classification, teaching methods could be presented in three main categories: cognitive development methods, affective development method, and psychomotor development methods. Coming to the cognitive development methods. Here, if the focus of the instructional objective is to develop intellectual skills in learners, then the cognitive development methods of teaching are recommended. This method helps learners to comprehend, analyze, synthesize, and evaluate information. It helps the learners develop good cognitive abilities. The cognitive development methods are essentially didactic. Some of the teaching methods in this category include discussion method, questioning or Socratic method, team teaching, talk chalk recitation method, field trip or excursion method, team teaching method, etc. Then affective development method. This domain includes objectives which describes changes in interest, attitude and values. It further deals with the development of appreciation and adequate adjustment. Education has a lot to give the learner in order to assist him or her to develop in these areas. Hence, teachers are encouraged to include learning experience that are worth enough, teach in ways that arouse interest and develop proper attitude in learners. This mode of teaching is basically philetic. Here, students' feelings of opinion are aroused. Some teaching methods under this category include modeling method, simulation method, dramatic method and role play methods. Then psychomotor development methods. These are activity based methods of teaching that aim at motor skills development in learners. This method requires that learners are able to illustrate, demonstrate or perform certain skills using their manual dexterity. It is a heuristic method of teaching that involves inquiry and discovery methods of teaching. It is a more student activity based method. This method includes inquiry method, discovery method, process approach method, demonstration method, laboratory or experimentation method, programmed learning method, Dalton plan, assignment method, project method, micro teaching method and mastery learning. There are a number of teaching methods have been developed, modified and even combined over centuries. Below is a list of some teaching methods that can be used to facilitate learning generally. It can be represented as the wheel of instructional choice showing various teaching methods. Then coming to the different teaching methods and techniques. Let us discuss some common teaching methods and techniques and their characteristics and mode of application which are used frequently in our daily classroom teaching in a very basic manner. Before pass on to that, let us have a glance into the difference between method, approach and techniques. Method is procedural, approach is axiomatic and technique is implementational. This discrimination will be facilitating the learner to have a clear conception on the position of different methods that are generally used in the classrooms. Questioning methods. Questioning method of teaching aids learners in connecting concepts, increasing awareness, encouraging creative and imaginative thought, making inferences, etc. Questioning generally helps learners to explore deeper level of thinking, knowing and understanding. Questioning, though it is more of a technique than a method of teaching, is used during various methods of teaching. Questioning method may be used for the following purpose: to arouse interest and curiosity, to stimulate discussion, to channel thinking, to determine how well the group understands the material, to get the attention of an individual. There are 5 basic types of questions as shown in the figure. Coming to lecture method. A lecture is a pedagogical method where an expert in a particular field makes a carefully planned, sequentially arranged expository address on a particular topic. A lecture is an oral presentation of the information by the instructor. It is the method of relaying factual information which includes principles, concepts, ideas and all the theoretical knowledge about a given topic. In a lecture, the instructor tells, explains, describes or relates whatever information the learners are required to learn through listening and understanding. It is therefore a teacher-centered approach. The instructor is very active doing all the talking. Trainees, on the other hand, are very inactive doing all the listening aspects. Despite the popularity of lectures, the lack of active involvement of learners limits its usefulness as a method of instruction. The lecture method of instruction is recommended for learners with very little knowledge or limited background knowledge on the topic. It is also useful for presenting an organized body of new information to the learner. And now about the discussion method. Discussion is usually at a higher cognitive level and it develops critical thinking. Students' participation is necessary for a successful classroom discussion. It is a student-centered teaching technique but requires careful planning by the teacher to guide discussion. Successful discussion are guided by specific teaching goals. In the student's attempt to solve the problem or answer the question, students pair up in smaller group, discuss the issue on ground, and then they are brought back for a full group discussion. This method encourages students' participation, develops critical thinking, develops students' ability to communicate and problem solving skills. Then coming to the bus groups. Another method of instruction is the bus group. During a longer session, the plenary group can break into subgroups to discuss one or two specific questions or issues. The room soon fills with noise as each subgroup buzzes in the discussion. Bus group can be in pairs, trios, or more depending on the activity. People turn to their neighbors for a quick buzz or form larger groups of 3 or more. This allows almost everyone to express an opinion. While they are buzzing, participants are able to exchange ideas and draw on their wide collective experience. A good buzz session will generate many ideas, comments, and opinion, the most important of which will be reported back. Then coming to the brainstorming. The purpose of a brainstorming session is to discover new ideas and responses very quickly. It differs from the bus group discussion in that the focus is on generating as many ideas as possible without judging them. In this technique, all ideas are given equal credence. Participants are encouraged to let ideas flow free, building on and improving from previous ideas. The combination of swiftly generated ideas usually leads to a very animated and energized session. Even the more reserved participants should feel bold enough to contribute. The purpose of listing responses is to collect existing experiences and thoughts. Coming to role playing. This method of teaching can be used for solving real life situational problems. The technique of role play develops practical professional skills and functioning knowledge. It enables students in the classroom to act as stakeholders in an imagined scene. In a play role, the teacher selects an event that illuminates the topic of study and students are assigned roles which will be played out. The role play will be concluded with a reflection stage that reinforces the concepts introduced by the role play. This method gives students the opportunity to explore together their feelings, attitude, values, and problem solving strategies. Coming to another method, games or simulation methods. This method entails a real life activity in a simple manner that communicates the idea to the learner concerned. The use of simulation method in a classroom situation is devised to help students to learn how things operate in reality. Students are encouraged to act out the same roles and make discussion likened to real life situation. Therefore, simulation helps students to practice and understand adult roles and also develop the skills necessary for successful adult life. Simulation and games are used at all levels of education and create both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation in the learner. Next is a very important method, demonstration method. A demonstration involves showing, doing, or telling the students the point of emphasis. It is mostly used as a technique within a method of teaching and at times as a method of teaching itself. Here, role of the teacher is to illustrate how to do something or illustrate a principle first by explaining the nature of the act verbally, followed by demonstrating the act in a systematic manner, and later the students repeat the act. Demonstration is useful mostly in imparting psychomotor skills and lessons that require practical knowledge. Then coming to the inquiry or discovery method. This is a teaching learning situation whereby the students are given the opportunity to discover and find out things for themselves. This method is rooted in heuristic teaching, activity and problem solving. These are basically the major ingredients of modern science. It is a learner-centered method whereby the learner discovers and explores some problem-solving experiences with a view to drawing conclusions from data gathered through the process of observing, predicting, measuring, and formulating relevant questions. The gains of inquiry or discovery methods include: it demonstrates students' proficiency, encourages curiosity, fosters intuitive thinking in the classroom, develops good communication skills, and students become independent thinkers. Then coming to the selection of appropriate teaching methods. After seeing some of the most commonly used methods of teaching, it is important to consider the classroom environment in selecting an appropriate teaching method for a lesson. The space available in the class, ventilation, illumination, and other teaching devices in a classroom, etc., all these affect the choice of teaching methods to be used. A program chart for selecting appropriate teaching method is given here. In situations where teachers fail to use appropriate teaching methods, a good curriculum plan could turn out to be damaged. The main purpose of curriculum implementation is to translate the ideas into a workable blueprint, and this can be achieved basically by using appropriate teaching methods in the class. The following suggestions are made for the effective use of teaching methods in the teaching and learning process. First, teachers should know the nature of the subject matter to be taught and be conversant with it to enable him or her to determine the most suitable teaching method or methods to use in a given lesson. The instructional objectives a teacher intends to achieve by the end of the lesson determine to an extent the type of teaching methods. The teacher must be very familiar with the type of teaching methods he or she wants to use at any given time and must ensure it is most appropriate for the success of the lesson. The teacher must consider the age, interest, etc. of the learner and ensures the right teaching methods and materials that will suit the learners are in place. In choosing appropriate teaching methods, the teacher is encouraged to consider the time to be used for a lesson, as this will go a long way to determine also the type of teaching methods to use. The teacher should put into consideration the population of the class, the environment and the size of the class, etc. This will help to determine the most suitable teaching method to use for a lesson and make it worth enough and effective. To sum up the discussion, the teacher is a vital factor in the success of an educational system in a nation. Teaching is an attempt to bring about desirable changes in human learning abilities and behavior. Effective implementation of the curriculum is dependent in the effective use of appropriate teaching methods in the classroom. Teaching methods are used to facilitate students' learning and satisfaction. A combination of teaching methods is encouraged for effective teaching. A variety of the use of teaching method is a must for teachers if learning is to be effective and efficient. In the subsequent sessions, some of the teaching methods will be discussed in detail. Thank you very much. We will be meeting soon with another module. Thank you.